Orville, good to have you on here, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Now you are not unprepared for this sort of format because you yourself had a podcast for a bit, right?
Yeah, I've had a couple of them. One of them was more recent. It was called The Handsomest Man in Los Angeles, which is a nickname that my friend Brandon gave to me. And so I was like, all right, if you don't stop this, you're gonna have to do a podcast with me, and it's gonna be about nothing at all. But I had another one with my friend Mike Garrido, called Give Us a Good One, that was a storytelling podcast, and we would get guests on to tell stories from their lives, and oftentimes they were musicians, but not always. And so it was just kind of like trying to draw some interesting story out of people that they hadn't really shared before. But
Right.
yes, I am familiar with the podcast concept, and I listen to a lot of them too. So
You're
yeah,
you're a professional. I knew that from the jump. You have that energy about you, Orville.
you flatter me.
You got it, and it hopefully it's going to rub off on me a little bit here. But I wanted to ask you this: why do you think so many people listen to podcasts? What do you think it is about this sort of format here?
Um, well, podcasting is kind of funny to me. Like different, people listen for different reasons. Like I listen to comedy podcast, or I have for a long time, to hear what stand-up comedians that I like talk about, to their friends. And sometimes they have a specific subject. And then there are other podcasts that I listen to that the format is kind of like a radio show, and they like tell this whole story. And then there's others that are, about specific topics, like how a movie got made or something like that. So it can run the gamut. I don't usually listen to music related ones, but every now and then, you know.
Every
Um,
once in a blue moon, right?
yes, so I mean, like, I think another reason people will listen to podcasts is because, and I know this is true for me, is that I've had a lot of jobs that require just repetitive sort of busy work sort of stuff. And I can kind of like, especially when I was doing carpentry, I could zone out and just like sand a bunch of boards. And it's probably really bad for my hearing because I'm, blasting sound into them while also blasting, some power tool out in front of me, but like, even just at home, like if I'm cleaning or something like that, or doing the dishes or whatever, I'm like, I have all this busy work that I need to get done, and I don't want to just like, I feel like that, or listening to music, it just kind of like it turns off the part of my brain that starts to freak out and overthink other things, and I try to save that sort of like silence for like going on a long walk or something like that, or going on a hike. But even then, I'll allow myself to be distracted. I think people like to be entertained constantly, and like to be distracted from their thoughts. You know, that's
Yeah.
basically what it is.
Well, do you think there's an expiration date on interests in podcasting? Do you think that it's gonna wane?
Uh, I'm not one to make such predictions, but yeah, perhaps some other format of entertainment will come along that will totally wipe everything else out. I mean, like there's TikTok, for one thing, like anything that's like short format, I think. But it's funny to think about that because I do sometimes have a very short attention span, and I can get distracted really easily, especially by my phone, and games and social media and stuff like that. So I don't know. Like I used to listen to audiobooks too. Um, and the thing that I stopped really doing that because I found that the books that I was listening to, I didn't retain as much as I would have if I had actually read it on a page.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I like a physical book. versus like I've never owned what do you call those things? Those tablets that
Yeah, the Kindles or something like
Kindle.
that.
Yeah. I've never had one of those. I look at a screen enough as it is, so
Yeah.
um but yeah, will podcasts stick around? Maybe. It seems like uh there are people who have been doing it for a long time that have basically made a name for themselves by doing a podcast. And then after, I don't know when this really started, but at a certain point, it seemed like all the new podcasts that were popping up in my feed were ones where people who are already famous used them as another way to promote themselves or get, revenue streams through ads and stuff like that. And that's kind of like, it's kind of one of the discouraging things about doing a podcast in the first place. It's like the one that I stopped doing it a couple years ago, but the last one that I was doing, Handsomest Man, was like, it wasn't about anything. It was just, I would just write a couple of pages of whatever I was thinking about, and I'd put a title on it and say, okay, this is our episode this week. And I would read that to my co-host, Brandon, and then he would comment on it, and then we would just talk shit the rest of the time. So it was not like it wasn't about anything specific, and it was just basically two friends. uh I guess if anything, it was about the dynamic between the two of us having a conversation, but it wasn't really about anything. I don't know if that makes it relatable. I feel like if I ever do a podcast again, it's going to have to be about something more specific that I can elaborate on and maybe shed some light on. But if I'm just like making stupid, in jokes with a friend of mine, then that's not really, it's not really for other people, is it? So,
People are listening, then yeah, but on the other hand,
yeah. Um, but I see you've had a lot of people that I know personally on your podcast. What's your story? When did you start doing this?
2017, I
Okay.
believe, technically, maybe 16 or 17, one of those. And yeah, I just got really interested in what musicians think about, and I kind of just stemmed from there, but then really started trying to do it more often than just like, oh, here's one. Starting in high school, it's like, okay, yeah, I have one, but I don't have like one weekly or something like that. So then progressively just got what I perceive as more professional, but possibly not. I don't know. That's up for the listeners to decide.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I got really interested in that. I said, oh, there's a bunch of musicians I'd like to talk to, and yeah, just kind of snowballed from there, which is interesting because I think that musicians have a way of maybe they don't express it within music so much from time to time, but they are good talkers and are able to talk because they're in front of a microphone a lot of the time, or some of the time at least. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to speak ill of anyone, especially not specifically, but not on a podcast, but there are people that I know that are perhaps not the best at formulating their thoughts when put in front of a microphone to talk about something. I mean, like, it may be different now, and it's definitely a skill that that anyone can acquire, like getting better at talking, whether it be in public or just in conversation when you know you're being recorded, or just being a better conversationalist in general. I mean, some of my friends have called me quiet, and what it really is that if it can be a couple of things. Either somebody else talks so much that I don't think I can get a word in edgewise, that or like the topic that is being discussed I can't relate to, or I don't have anything to add to it. And depending on the company, sometimes I'll chime in on something even though I know that I don't know anything about what they're talking about, just to try to sometimes try to change the subject or make it funny, or just to find an in, because I do like to talk, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was funny, like years ago, bandmates of mine, when I was playing in A Giant Dog, we went on this radio show in Austin. They would do like a local live thing where you'd go in the studio and they would record a set, and it actually sounded really good. And
Was it
then
WK something UL or something along those lines?
I can't remember the call letters for the station, but I think it's like it's like the university related station there, and
By the way, call letters, just knowing that, Orville. I mean, come on now. I mean, that just is it's a true testament to that you know what's going on the inside.
I mean, I went to school for radio, TV, and film.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, a lot of good that's done me. But
Well,
I
hey,
think
you're here now. You've made
at
it.
Cramp,
This is it.
true. Yeah. Um, but anyway, like after they would record a set, then they would do an interview with the band. And I remember one of the first times that I went in there, the interviewer would ask these questions and they'd have maybe one or two microphones to speak into, and my bandmates wouldn't know that they needed to be like pretty close to the microphone so that it sounded good. Um, and not only that, like they would not really know what to say, and so I would just jump in and start saying stuff until somebody took over. But there was some other thing I was going to say about that. Oh, I don't know. It's like, what do they call it? Red light fever when you're in front of a camera or a microphone. Some people get it in the recording studio where like, you've been rehearsing the song with your band for months and you know how to play it, but for some reason when it comes time for you to like retrack a guitar or something like that, it's like I can't, I keep messing it up, I keep doing it wrong, like so I don't I, if you, the more you do it, the less of a problem it becomes.
Right. Yeah, it's moving that muscle. It's getting that strength in it.
Yeah.
And I heard it might have been it was somebody on a podcast, but this person might have been a guide to manners, I believe is what it's something along those lines. Like you could like hire this woman to come to a
Okay.
to an event to like, hey, this is how you eat this, or this is how you set a plate and this and that. And she said something really interesting. She said a conversation uh is could be equated to a good game of tennis, a good conversation. That if somebody's just holding the ball the whole time or
Yeah,
speaking the whole time, it's not enjoyable. It's not
that's
fun to
true.
watch or participate in if they're just holding the
Right.
ball the whole time.
I also tend to reserve like I tend to be more restrained in speaking around people who I know tend to interrupt. And it's one thing to chime in, to be like, yes, yeah, like, but when somebody asks you a question, I know a few people like this. I won't name names, but there are a few people that I know that will ask a question. I'll start to tell them the answer, but I guess it's taking too long for me to get to the point that they wanted to hear, and they'll just start talking about something else, and that's very frustrating to me. And I try not to do that to other people. I'm not perfect, but yeah, it's inconsideration in conversation can be very frustrating. Or people who talk too loudly, you know, it gets on my nerves. But I don't need to focus on the negative stuff. That's just kind of my tendency is to focus on like the downside of something. But I'm also pretty positive, somewhat optimistic. I think I get a pretty good balance here, but enough about me.
Is that a waltz
Oh,
glass, by the way, in your hand there?
yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah,
I think
waltz Eagle Rock.
Yeah,
Good
my
quality.
roommate got this, I think. I just drink water or tea out of it. I don't drink. So, I've been to Waltz, and I know a guy that works there, and every time that I've gone in, if he's there, he'll just put a Topo Chico on the counter for me, and I'll be like, "Thanks, man," and I'll go to pay, and like he'll walk away. So I'm like, All right. I guess I get a free topo on the house, you know. Um,
That's a good position to be in.
that's how it was when I used to drink, you know. I knew bartenders everywhere, and in Austin, not everywhere, but a lot of places. I frequented certain places, and sometimes I would just walk in and they'd just put a drink on the counter for me, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay." And they wouldn't charge me, you know, but I still managed to spend a lot of money drinking. Anyway, didn't mean to make this a sobriety podcast.
I'm glad we got it out of the way now, so we can really get into the party aspect of your life.
Mhm.
Kidding, Orville. We're not. That's for the Patreon, along with the other names that you wouldn't mention about bad talkers and such. So yeah, join us
Mhm.
there. We're gonna be
Yes,
yeah, we're gonna be mentioning people first, last name, credentials, and bands.
I got lists, so I hope you're ready.
We got some lists going. Um, yeah, I had read that you you had a couple of bands going in Austin, right? And are you? But what I wanted to ask you was, are you from Texas originally? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, well, I was born in Oklahoma, in Tulsa. So, to anyone who's a native Texan, actually born there, you know, if they found that out, they would make sure to point out that I wasn't, you know, a native Texan, you know. So, but that's fine. Both of my parents were, you know, born in Texas, and I grew up in Houston, Spring, Texas. Actually, it's a little suburb north of Houston, but just on the other side of the city limits. So, you know, I spent a lot of time going to venues like Fitzgerald's, which is no longer there anymore. But that was where I saw a lot of shows. I even got to play there a few times from high school until it closed. But yeah, I grew up in Spring, and then I lived up in North Texas in Denton for 5 years. I went to school there. I got out in four, and then I was there for another year afterwards because I didn't know where I wanted to go. And then I was in Austin for 9 years, from August of 2009 to August of 2018. And then I moved here to LA in August of 2018. And I've been here ever since.
Did you see the an influx of people moving into Austin before you moved out here to California?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird thing. You know, people were talking about all these liberal Californians moving into Texas. And I was like, the people, and I did start to see a lot more California plates there, you know. But I started seeing a lot more California plates, and you know, occasionally meeting people who had moved from uh the Bay or LA out there, or anywhere really. But I don't think that they were I think that it was generally people who owned businesses who were trying to reestablish them in Texas because they don't have a state income tax there. Um, and you know, stuff like that. So and I think that the laws and taxes around owning a business are much more relaxed in Texas. And so these are generally wealthy people, uh, and I don't know if the the Texas perception of them was right on or not. You know, like although Austin has a reputation, or has had a reputation, of being a more like quote unquote liberal city, or perhaps sometimes, dare I say, progressive city in Austin.
Whoa, all right. That's you. I mean, just tread lightly, okay? That's pretty far.
Some people might be progressive in Austin. I think they definitely exist, but it's funny how that reputation has persisted when, like, you know, it's surrounded by a red state, and in a place where I never felt like my vote really counted either, because it was they've got a serious problem with gerrymandering there. So, but I didn't mean to make this a political podcast
I
either.
mean, it was inevitable. It was inevitable.
Yeah, it's
What are we
gonna
gonna
come
do?
up given the times that we're living in. Come on, you
Given
know.
just talking, just two people talking, it's gonna come up.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. Did you? It's interesting because I look at Austin specifically as like the third major city in America. Now that's just a personal take. I used to think like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, but
Hmm.
I'm thinking Austin nowadays, just because there's so many. You hear about so many people, and going back to the to comedy for a moment. I mean, comedy's really big there now as well. It's just kind
Yeah,
of interesting.
that happened right after I moved. All these comedians that some of them I used to follow, and some of them I still do, but several of them I definitely don't anymore. But but yeah, I don't know. It's not that big. I mean, like the metro area is probably 1 million people. It's funny that I think Austin has the nickname the live music capital of the world, which is it's rather arrogant if you ask me. And I don't think it's true either. I'm sure that there's more live music happening in a number of other cities on any given night than there is in Austin, but that's just um, that's just my take on it. I don't think that it's I can't take that title away from them, you know. But you asked about bands, and this is a music podcast, so yeah, I
Slash
had
slash political slash just geopolitics and
that's not really my forte, but you know, yeah, I had a couple of bands to say the least when I was living in Austin. But it started in Denton. Like I had a band with my friend Daniel Freed called the Pumpers, and which is a terrible name, and neither of us came up with, but our bandmate Mike came up with it, and we were just like, well, we need a name, so I guess we'll do that, you know. And yeah, since I was in high school, I was always playing in more than one band. I think by the time I had my first or second band, I was already joining other bands because I play more than one instrument, you know. But after the Pumpers, and for a short period of time concurrent with it, like in the summer of 2007, I started writing songs for a new project that would become Bad Sports. And Daniel, who I played with in the Pumpers, uh, decided to join me on that. And then we got a drummer a few months later. Um, and on Halloween of 2007, we officially became a band. And I think it was around that time that we also like chose the name. We were like throwing names around, and Daniel said something like, "What about Bad Trash?" Because there's a song called Bad Trashin' by this band. You know
I'm
Hubble Bubble?
no, I don't.
They're like a Dutch or French, I think it's Belgian. I think they're a Belgian punk band from the 70s. They had a song called Bad Trash, and he said, "What about Bad Trash?" And I was like, what about Bad Sports? And he was like, okay, yeah, so let's do that. I had Bad Sports. I had another band there called Chief Death Rage, that was more like stoner influenced sort of punk, like heavier stuff. And then yeah, I might have played with a few other bands while I was there. But yeah, once I moved to Austin, I started playing in a Giant Dog on drums, and then started OBN3s after that. And so for a while there, I had three bands that were pretty pretty active, and my tendency is to overextend myself, and so I started playing with John Wesley Coleman sometimes. He had a band called the Golden Boys. and he was doing solo stuff. So I played in his band off and on for a few years. And then I was in James Arthur's Manhunt for a while playing drums. And started another I started various other bands that lasted, for a little while. Like we had a band called The Best. There was other people, my friend Jason and Max V, and yeah, I don't know. It's like a lot of I think there were some short-lived ones, and there were others that stuck it out longer. But yeah, like my first band ever was with my friend Jason Smith, who, when we were in middle school, could already play like Stevie Ray Vaughan. So, and being from Texas, we were like, that's awesome, like, um, I'll admit, I used to really love Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm kind of over it now, but yeah, we had our first band together. Then he also played in OBN3s with me, and then we also had another band called Vertical Vice, which was around for about a year or so before I moved out to LA. And then we also played in a band called TV's Daniel together, which is Daniel from Bad Sports and the Pumpers, and whom I also play with in Radioactivity. Uh, so there's a lot of like sharing of members in different groups over time, and the same has happened since I moved out here to LA, and I got asked to play bass in a band called Richard Rose right before I moved out here. So I started learning those songs. And then that lasted a few years. And then when we broke up in September 21, me and Chris Shaw, who you might know from X-Cult and Gogs and stuff like that,
Right, right.
we decided we were going to keep doing something. So we started Memo PST. Um, and our drummer Jackson came from he he and our current bass player Emmanuel, they had a band, I think they still do it sometimes, called Repeater down in San Clemente. And Richard Rose had played a show with them in early 2019, and then I started doing solo stuff a couple years later, and Jackson hit me up asking if I wanted someone to play drums on my solo stuff. And so I brought him into that. And then I was like, maybe you should play drums in this new thing that me and Chris are doing, So he's been with us ever since. We've had a few different bass players, or yeah, we've had three. Emmanuel's the third. Before that, we had Danny, Claude Felter, who you might know from Shark Toys. He also owns Arroyo Records up here
Yes, yeah.
and then but our first bass player in Memo PST was Mike B from Spiritual Cramp. Uh,
Hmm.
and he's on the first EP. He's a good bass player, and I didn't want to lose a good bass player, but he had to start focusing on Spiritual Cramp, and yeah, I've been playing with them for the last since June of 2024. And the reason that I know those guys is because Radioactivity had done some shows with them back in late 2018. We did like 10 shows together from the Midwest to the East Coast, and then Radioactivity did some more touring after that. But that's how I met those guys initially. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. But I've also got too many bands. Um, I continue to write stuff for my solo project, Orvy. But I stopped doing the band. Like I stopped playing shows with that band almost like about a year and a half ago. And just things got too busy, and some other personal stuff happened that just kind of like it made me want to kind of slow down and figure out how to focus. But yeah, still right for it. My old band, Bad Sports, is back at it again too. We've got a show coming up on February 2nd at Zebulon. It's a Monday night with Begging Dog.
Groundhog Day too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think we have to worry about the whole winter superstition around here, but it's pretty nice outside right now, you know? Like best weather of the year, I feel like is always in the winter here, you know? And it's green. It's beautiful outside. But yeah, there's that. Uh, Warblob, another band that I've done off and on for the last couple of years with Sean Powell from Surfboard and Adam Laidlaw, who used to play in that band Nice, and Monty, the old drummer for Nice as well. And I've known Sean since I lived in Austin because he's a Texas guy. Um, but yeah, what do we got? Bad Sports, Radioactivity, Memo PST, uh, Spiritual Cramp,
Orvy, Spiritual Cramp.
Orvy, yeah, and Warblob. So it's too many things, and I'm trying to figure out how to focus, you know, and put some put the effort into the right places right now. But you didn't ask that, but I told you. So
Well, I appreciate you telling me. Now, it is interesting though, and I think it's very cool that that Bad Sports came out of Texas, your time in Texas, and it's still going on now. It's still active today.
yeah,
It's amazing.
we have had periods of inactivity though, you know, like so we have the show coming up in February, but we haven't I don't think we played a show in 2 years. Like I think the last time we played was in January of 2024. And that's just circumstantial. Like we never told anyone that we were breaking up. Um we did get a new drummer back in 2019 because our old drummer didn't want to tour so much and we wanted to, but we haven't really been able to make that happen in a while. But we are going out with Spiritual Cramp. So five of the shows from we're doing all the Texas shows in Atlanta and Nashville, and then right after that, I'll continue doing double duty with Radioactivity opening for the next four shows. So um,
But not it wouldn't be a three. It would just be a tour. Two for both for
two at a
both.
time,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Would
since
three be too much? Would that be just
I've
too
done
much to
it,
handle?
I've done it before. In fact, in 2019, um, I was over in Europe for like probably 6 weeks or so. And the first couple weeks of it was a TV's Daniel tour, and I was playing drums. And then uh, at the end of that, for the last few shows, I was doing triple duty. So I'd play drums in TV's Daniel, and then I would get up and play guitar and sing with Bad Sports, and then Radioactivity would close the show, and I'd be on bass. Um, but it was just three shows, so it's not that crazy. And then the rest of the tour was doing double duty with Bad Sports and Radioactivity, which we've done a bunch of times. So um, I guess the only obstacle here is like for the upcoming tour is that I need to make sure to like dry off before the next set starts. Maybe change my shirt or something, you know, so that I don't look disheveled when the set starts, you know. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think it'll be fun. Um,
Do you feel really in tune with music at those times, like really getting after it, like pulling a three peat on a tour like you just mentioned, or even a double duty?
it's been a while since I've done it. You know, double triple duty, which is rare. But I don't know if I would describe it as saying I feel more in tune with music. It's just like the more I play songs with the band, the more it just becomes kind of second nature, and I don't really even think about what I'm doing. And I think that's true for a lot of musicians, but I don't know. I think I worry a little bit, just a little bit, not too much, but I don't like to I don't like to appear as egotistical. And sometimes I feel like if I'm double billed on something that it's like people are gonna think this is the Orville show or something, you know? And it's like, I don't want it to look like, oh, we're just favoring, like some sort of like low level nepotism or whatever, you know. But it is fun. I mean, I like having something to do. And when it comes to like going to shows for a long time, I preferred to only go to shows that I was playing at. And if I played often enough, uh, whether in town or on the road, then, that was fine. But for periods like since, early December to now, I've been home in LA for the most part, and I've actually started going to shows again that I'm not playing just to see what else is out there. Because I realize I get I've always felt kind of out of touch, like it's rare that I felt like I'm in touch with what's going on around me, like in the scene, When I worked at a venue, like I used to work at Beerland in Austin, from 2009 to 2012. And so because I was working there and playing shows all the time and going on tour a lot, like I was surrounded by music. And that actually was kind of it kind of numbed me to it a little bit, where like I didn't appreciate it as much as I did when it was like if you only go out every now and then, it's more special. But it did open me up to appreciating some, types of music that I may not have gotten into otherwise. Or to see the good in a band that I might have, written off before. Like if I'm behind the soundboard and I have to watch their whole set and make sure it doesn't start feeding back or whatever, then like um you're like, oh, okay, these guys are really good at this thing. Or or I could appreciate like maybe that's not my style, but they're really good at that style. Um, and yeah, I don't know. As far as being in tune with music, that's why I have a tuner pedal.
What was or what is an album that you initially did not like? You said this is a not for me or a bad album, and then you have
Mhm.
changed your mind over the course of years, and you go, "Oh, that's actually a good band," or "I'm into that album now," or whatever it may be.
Um, some people are not gonna want to hear this, but there are some bands that people have long, pushed on me since I was younger. Like you gotta, if you like this kind of stuff, you gotta hear this. And I'd be like, like Sonic Youth is one that people have been playing that for me since I was a teenager. And I never really, I don't know, I just didn't really get it. And it was only in the last couple of years that like a friend of mine even made me a mixtape of Sonic Youth one time because she was like, this is one of my favorite bands, like you should appreciate this. And I listened to it and I was like, okay, it's like I wish I could say that you sold me on it, but it didn't. But then I was like at a climbing gym with a friend, and they were playing music in there, and some later Sonic Youth song came on. I forget the song title, but it was from an album from like 2004 or something like that. And I was like, what is this? Like, this is really good. And then like I caught like a piece of uh the vocal like on the chorus, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna type these words into Apple Music and see what I come up with. And I'm like, oh, Sonic Youth. All right. Like and so I decided to listen to them a bit more, and I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and I definitely appreciate it more. Another one, and this is an older example, uh I another, old like punk band that had been pushed on me was Flipper. And like, the first song on their first album is so dissonant and gross sounding. And for the longest time, I was just like, this sucks. Like, why would you do that? Why would you play all out of tune like that? I didn't get it. And then I was at a friend's apartment in Chicago working on a music video for OBN3s, and he put it on, and I was like, what is this? This is awesome. And he's like, it's Flipper. You don't know this? I'm like, oh, fuck. I feel like an idiot. Like, I just like wrote this thing off, and then I was really into it, and I made like some embarrassing, post on Facebook at the time being like this sounds really good to my ears, but to untrained ears it might not sound, like good music or some dumb shit like that, but I and people were like, about time you got into that. I'm like, okay, I am a dork. So what are you gonna do?
What is a band or album that you were really into before and have since lost interest in it?
Hmm, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Um, uh, you know, in the late 90s and early 2000s, I feel like in the punk world, especially, for somebody who grew up in the suburbs, uh, like I feel like stuff on Epitaph Records and Fat Records is like king for like, suburban kids. Um, and so for a while there, I really liked NoFX. Like I remember riding my bike to the record store to buy a vinyl copy of Ribbed. I used to really like NoFX, but now I can't listen to it. It just at some point I heard something that resonated with me far more than that ever did. And you know, um, say what you want about NoFX. I know a lot of people who like them, but yeah, that kind of like spazzy sort of pop punk usually doesn't I just don't I can't do it anymore, you know. And surprising to me, even that I was into it, I guess it sounded a little more punk to me than like Blink 182, which like a lot of my friends really liked, when we were in middle school and high school, but I always thought it sounded really cheesy, and so I didn't like it. Um, but man, there's a lot of stuff that I listened to from an early age or stuff that I got into later that I'll go back and listen to stuff that I haven't listened to in a long time. Uh, that uh, the longer it's been since the last time I listened to it, when I come back to it, it sounds different to me. I'll be like, oh, I never noticed this. Um, but yeah, I don't think I ever need to listen to the first, on a slightly different musical topic than say punk. Like, I don't need to listen to the first Boston record ever again. But when I was a kid, that was the best thing ever. And it was for a long time to me. I was like, this is like the pinnacle of music because it was what my parents had a cassette of that album and they'd put it in the tape deck in the Suburban when we go on a road trip and they would fade it all the way to the back and turn it all the way up. And so we were just being blasted with the first Boston album. And yeah, it still has like it holds core memories for me. I know that's kind of like a buzz term these days, but like it definitely still reminds me of like lying on the bench in the back of the Suburban, with that album blaring, I don't know. There's any number of things, I guess.
What about a song that you would not put on or your parents wouldn't put on, but you would hear it at either in a movie or a TV show, commercial, whatever it may be, or just in somebody else on the radio when you're scanning through, whatever it may be, that you're like, I've heard that song plenty of times. I don't need to hear that song ever again. A
Mhm.
specific song. Is there anyone that jumps out to you?
Can I tell you a story?
Please.
Um, this involves something else as well, but I went to see I went to see that movie One Battle After Another with my friend Mike Garrido uh, and who I did the podcast with, Give Us a Good One, and played with in TV's Daniel and OBNIIIs. But we went to see One Battle After Another after it had already been in the theater for at least a few weeks. So I noticed that like the attendance was starting to go down, like when I would go to select seats. And so we went in there and the room was relatively empty, right? There was like two seats booked in the middle of each row, but like the very middle row had nothing booked on it. So I booked our two seats right there in the middle of it. It was at Alamo Drafthouse, by the way. And we get in right as the previews start to play. And an ad for that Sentimental Value movie came on and it had that song Ooh La La in it, the Faces song, but it was a cover version. It's that I Wish That I Knew What I Know Now When I Was Younger song.
Mm-hmm.
And both me and Mike like turned to each other and were like, I don't ever need to hear this again, you know? I'm so sick of this song and they should stop using it in ads, you know? But I left out an important detail. Um, Let me ask you a quick question though.
Please.
If you're purchasing a ticket for a movie
Mm-hmm.
and you go into the movie like you're on the website, you're looking at the seat map, right? If you're going by yourself and you see that there are like say the room is relatively open, right? You're not would you book your seat directly next to two other occupied seats?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Never.
Okay, so it's inconsiderate, right?
Very.
Give yourself some space. If you
Absolutely.
have the choice, it's one thing if there's only one seat open, then like, of course, sit there. It's already full, you know?
Yeah. Different story.
So we got to the theater, right? And right as we were about to sit down, as the previews started playing, I noticed that there was a guy sitting in the seat directly to the left of the ones that we booked. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, there's all these other seats in here. But I was just like, all right, you know what? I'll spare my friend Mike and I'll sit in that seat between him and this other guy. And so that ad for sentimental value comes on, right? And it gets to the end of it, and there's a slight pause between the end of that one and the next preview starting. And just as a joke, I had already gotten some popcorn and I was eating it. And just as a joke, I let out a little tiny baby burp just to punctuate the pause, just a little, And and as the next preview started, I felt the seat to my left, the stranger, I felt it shake. And I was like, that was weird. And then I heard, no. And I was like, what? And I looked over at him and he goes, don't do that. And I'm like, uh. he had a French accent. And and I was like, okay. And I didn't actually say anything to him. I just stared at him and turned back to the screen. I was like, this seems like a bit of an overreaction. And then you know, I guess because I didn't apologize, the guy got up and started saying stuff to me, like how I'm a pig or something like that. He's like, "You're a pig. You know, it's a pity, blah blah blah." And I'm like, whatever, dude. You know, and he moves, he sits. There are two people sitting directly in front of us, right? He goes and he sits in the seat directly next to them. So now diagonally in front of me, right? And then you know, I've got like a big like Diet Coke and like eating popcorn. And so you know that what that's a recipe for. Well, about 20 minutes into the movie, it's a lot of stuff is happening. It's very loud and there's a lot of action. And I had taken a sip of Diet Coke, and as I was pulling the straw out of my mouth before I could stop it, this huge burp escaped, like way bigger than the one that I had done on purpose earlier as a joke. But like I couldn't close my mouth in time to keep it from going like, "Blah," you know, and so that popped out, and I was like, shit. And I put my glass down, and this guy jerks around in his seat and he starts talking to me. He's like, "Hey, you," blah, 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 blah," and then I finally looked at him and he goes like, "Yeah, I'm talking to you. You're a pig." Blah 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 blah. And then he like stands up and is like interrupting the movie. You know, like visibly like shaking and gesturing at me and stuff. And like I can only imagine how the people that were sitting next to him felt. Anyway, I ignore him. He sits back down. At Alamo Drafthouse, they have waiters, right? So he hit the call button. I had already hit the call button because I wanted more Diet Coke. I see a waiter come over and talk to him, and I can see he's gesturing at me. And then like I see the waiter kind of look over at me. I'm like, all right. And then the waiter comes around to our row, and I'm like, here we go. And the guy just like took my glass and was like, I'm like, yes. And he's like, and nothing. You know, that guy doesn't care. You think anybody that works there, like waiting tables, cares about like kicking somebody out of the movie theater for that? It was a burp. The second one was an accident. But anyway, I thought I might have to fight this guy, but fortunately, we were able to get out of there without having to be confronted by him again, you know. So,
Just
uh,
one burp after another. Yeah.
yeah, and it was all because I was making a joke about the fact that I didn't want to hear "Ooh La La" by the Faces, whether original or cover version. And let me tell you, that cover version was worse than the original. So, you know, yes, I think we can all agree that as one ages, like we all wish that we knew what we knew now when we were younger, but then you'd be an old person in a young person's body, and that would be strange, wouldn't it? It's kind of better to be young and ignorant, right?
The Benjamin Button situation. Yeah.
Mm. Anyway, I hope that satisfies your question.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Another question I have for you though is when you were working, you said you're working sound for a place in Austin, right?
Yeah,
That's where you're seeing so many shows. Um, what was the best performance you saw during that time while working there? Not attending the show just to attend the show, but working there or being there while working. What was
man,
one that stands out to you from that time?
that's tough because I honestly don't remember a lot of it. You know, as I said before, I used to drink quite a bit. And so like I did have a lot of fun there. But I think it may there was like, do you remember that festival Chaos in Tejas? Or have you heard of it?
I think I've seen a flyer or
I
something
don't
about
think
that.
they've done it in a long time, but I was working there during that festival one time, and there were a bunch of they had like a showcase that was mostly bands from Japan, and these hardcore bands, like DB hardcore, so to speak. And that show in particular, uh, like I hadn't heard any of these bands before, but this band Perdition from Florida played, and the singer of that band, uh vocalist rather, he he like tore apart this boom mic stand, and like it's made of steel, right? Not maybe not super easy to bend, but he bent that thing in a way that I was just like, really? This guy did that? He also broke the microphone. Um and trying to like get up to the stage to replace the mic, and maybe or maybe not replace the stand was a bit of a challenge, because the crowd was very aggressive. And not that I was unfamiliar with that, but when I'm working, it's kind of like, hey, I'm not here to slam dance or whatever you guys are doing. I'm not trying to like mosh with you guys. I just want to like go up and replace the mic and the cable real quick, And like I almost got hit with the mic stand by that guy. But yeah, there was yeah, I think it might have been the same show as D-Clone and this other one that I'm trying to remember the name of. This other band from Japan was like insane. And so loud. And I got a nice review for doing sound that day because I just pushed everything as hard as I could, and having Timmy Hefner, who put the festival on, come up to me at the soundboard and be like, dude, it sounds just like the album. I'm like, I had no idea, you know? Like you can thank them for that, for playing so well. But they would always ask me for the maximum that I could put out from the monitors and stuff. And it was just like, sorry guys, that's as loud as it gets. I actually had everything dimed on the board, and like, I don't know. But that, or there was a band called Human Eye from Detroit. Uh, our friend Timmy Vulgar um, did a show there during South by Southwest one year where he had bought like a hot dog or a bratwurst or something from the Hot Dog King, this old like hot dog stand that used to be next door. And he gets on stage and he's eating that during the beginning of their set, and then he sets it down and he throws a t-shirt onto the stage and he gets out all this glitter and paint and stuff and he makes like a custom t-shirt, and he's probably getting some glitter and paint on his hot dog too. But this while the band is playing around him, and it's like loud, and it's that was really cool, And I think I can't remember if he finished the hot dog or not, but yeah, I mean that was definitely really fun. Or seeing like Cosmic Psychos play there. And I don't know, there were a lot of good shows, but it was a tiny club. One time I got to see Circle Jerks play there, which was great, So
Wow.
um and learn a little bit because they brought their own sound guy, and he was like plugging stuff in that I didn't know how to use. I was like, "Oh, is that what that's for? Oh, that's cool. How did you do that?" Like kind of shadowing him, But anyway, yeah.
Does bad sound bother you when you're up on stage now because you've been in the position of being the sound guy?
Uh, it does, but I've also learned generally how to work around it. Um, since uh every band that I've ever been in has not had their own front of house, somebody to mix for us. Getting a consistent sound every night can be difficult, but I've learned, rather than asking for more of everything, to ask for as few things as possible in the monitors. And just so that like if it's a small enough stage, I know I'll be able to hear the drummer just fine. And if the amps are loud enough, I don't really need that unless there's a guitar amp on the other side of the stage, and I would like to hear some of them, and I definitely want to hear the vocals, But like I wear earplugs when I'm on stage nowadays, and they're not like the nice ones. They're just like 3M, like the kind of you can get at a hardware store or at CVS or whatever, it's just like they're just these rubber earplugs that bring the overall level down. They don't sound great, but I've gotten used to the sound of it. Also, I have hearing damage, so I don't think that I don't know if I'm the best judge of like good sound sometimes. It's also a matter of taste. But yeah, that's how I deal with bad sound. It won't ruin the show unless we're on a really big stage. And this happened actually on the last Spiritual Cramp tour. We just went out with the Hives in Europe for a few weeks,
And how
and
great are they really put on a show. I've seen
such a good band. Like so
in
fun to
videos
watch.
rather. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah. Every night that we got to stay and watch them, I watched as much of their set as I could stand. And that would I'm by stand, I mean like I was standing and I was just like my feet hurt and I want to go sit down. Um, but they're so good live. But there was a show in Manchester, and we didn't get to stick around for the show that night, but our sound check, since we were first of three, we got kind of pushed back. And so we didn't have enough time before doors opened to get everything checked. And so that night, I couldn't really hear what I needed to hear on stage, and we were like spread pretty far apart. We just had like this narrow strip on the front of the stage because the headliner has all their stuff, and then the direct support has all their stuff, and we just kind of have to fit where we can. And
Hmm.
that night was, I went back and like saw videos of it, and we sounded good. Like we played just fine. And fortunately, we had been playing enough and were well enough rehearsed that like from an audience perspective, like they probably couldn't tell that we could not hear each other. So there'd be like little cues that start the song where I'd be like, oh, is that it? And be a little bit off time coming in, but then you come together and it's like that's like that muscle memory thing that I was talking about earlier, where like that's where that comes in really handy when the sound is bad. Uh,
Right.
I try not to let it affect my mood too much because that used to piss me off really bad when like things didn't sound good on stage. But now I've just learned to like accept it like until I have somebody on our crew, to handle those things who knows what we want and can be consistent and efficient about it, then like you just got to take what you can get. So but yeah, that's a long answer.
What is the easiest instrument to be behind in that situation of kind of really just playing by ear, and then what is the most difficult to to be behind in that situation?
Hmm. I would think that being the drummer, the timekeeper for the band is probably the most difficult when you can't hear what's going on, especially if the drummer's not the one counting off the song every time. If like it starts with a guitar part or something else, then you have to come in at the right time. So but I mean, it all depends on the complexity of the music, and like how many things there are going on stage. But I would think, and just from a little bit of experience being a drummer, like not being able to hear what other people are doing is probably the worst, when the timekeeper doesn't know what you're playing, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. That's a very tricky situation. Um,
Yeah.
Orville, I have one more question for you here. What is a band or artist that you had the opportunity to go see and you didn't, and you regret it now?
Uh, the Cramps.
Wow.
Um, it was in my first year of college when I was up in Denton. Um, some friends that I had made at the dorms there were like like weirdo rockers, and they were like they're like, "Hey, we're going to see the Cramps in Dallas tonight. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "I have a test tomorrow morning, so I need to like study." I felt like such a dork afterwards because like I think, well, it was a few years before Lux died, but like I didn't have another chance to go see them, you know. I don't know if necessarily feel the same way about Kiss. I used to be a really big Kiss fan. But when I got into them in the mid 90s, when they started doing the reunion tours, my parents weren't going to let me go, as like a 10 or 11-year-old to their shows. Um, and I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of others that I regret not seeing, but as time went on with Kiss, though, I think I was like, I don't really need to see that show. Uh, I still occasionally listen to some of their like older stuff, but the Ace Frehley stuff, but as far as their show goes, I'm like, I'm sure it's amazing, but I to justify being able to pay for it, I'm like, if I want to spend however, I don't even know how much their tickets would have cost on their last tour, but oh, you know what? I really regret missing is Motorhead, because they came through Austin a few times while I was living there, and every time that they played Austin, I was either at work at Beerland or on the road, and so I couldn't go see them. And then the last time that when I was supposed to see them, it was, you know, right right around the time that Lemmy died, and I had purchased a ticket to go see them in San Antonio because the Austin show had sold out. And then we found out like a few days later that Lemmy had passed, and it was like, oh, well, guess I'm not gonna get to see him now. And, I saw some videos from how it was in like the last year of them playing, and it wasn't what I really wanted to see. I wanted to see uh strong, energetic, and like no no slight on Lemmy, he's just doing what he does. But like I like there's something about bands that have been around for a really long time, or like when an old band reunites and it's not as strong as it used to be. Like it rarely is, But but I want to see them at their peak, but I wasn't alive for that, So anyway, yeah, particularly Motorhead, and not so much Kiss.
The
A
Cramps too.
little bit the Cramps too. Yeah, I wish I could have gone to that show.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
Well, Orville, I really appreciate you coming on here, sir. Thank you very, very much for coming on and doing this. It's just good to work with a professional sometimes, peer to peer, peer to peer.
appreciate that. Yes, thank you for your professionalism.
I'm doing my darndest here, but before I let you go, we got to do some promo. You got a lot of stuff on the table, like we kind of discussed earlier. So, Memo PST, Warblob, Bad Sports, Radioactivity, Spiritual Cramp, and your solo work, just Orvy. These are all the
hmm
bands that you are involved with right now. Now, unfortunately, I don't have all the links and stuff written down, but links to all of the Bandcamp and the records, the merch for all of these will be below whatever people are listening to this on. But to stay up to date with everything that you're up to, they should follow. People should follow you on Instagram, right? That's the best place.
Sure. Yeah. Underscore Orvy underscore.
Perfect. And that's and you
That's
you post about it
ORVY.
all. OR underscore ORVY
Yeah.
underscore. And you
Mhm.
post about all the things, all the happenings.
I try to, you know. But yeah, any project that I'm involved with, I will post about on there. But yeah, there's also the upcoming tour, the US tour with Spiritual Cramp, uh, starting on February 17th in San Diego and ending. Last show was March 21st, in LA at I think it's at the Terragram. Um, and Texas, so Dallas, Austin, Houston, Atlanta, and Nashville. My old band Bad Sports are going to be on those shows. And then DC, Brooklyn, Philly, and Boston, Radioactivity are going to be on those shows. Um, and also, for I don't know when this comes out, but
Should be out on Friday, this Friday.
okay, so if people live in the Bay Area, Memo PST are playing at the Stork Club on January 31st. That's a Saturday, and then 2 days later, for people who live in LA, Bad Sports are playing with Begging Dog and Situations at Zebulon, and Mike B from Spiritual Cramp is going to DJ the show. And that's a free show. I'm not sure about the Stork Club, but um, yeah, that's all I really have on current happenings. But I will say this: Bad Sports are working on new songs, so we're hoping to get at least one new song out by the time we hit the road with Spiritual Cramp. Um, and then Memo PST recorded a new album back in September, and we finished mixing it in October. It got mastered last month, and the artwork is pretty much done. So, sometime this year, Memo PST will have a second album out on In the Red, and uh, yeah, there's since I said Radioactivity is going out with Spiritual Cramp, uh, Rude from Spiritual Cramp and Time Won't Bring Me Down from Radioactivity both came out within a week of each other back in October. So you can pick those up on the road if you're coming out to see us.
Yes,
So
please make sure to buy some merch if you see Orville on the road anywhere, gas station, bathroom, wherever it is. You ask him for some merch and pay for it, please.
careful in the bathroom about asking for merch. Might not be able to provide while I'm in there, but we'll
Just
work
slide the money under the stall. He'll get the memo.
it.
PST. That was not supposed to be what it was. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. All those links will be linked below. Whatever people listen to this on the tickets for the tour and in all the releases. And do we have anything else to promote, Orville, before we cut you loose?
Um, well, I think I'm going to be home for a significant amount of time but after this spiritual cramp tour in February and March, and I do work on guitars. So if you need a setup or a simple fix, I mean I can do the electronics on them too and stuff like that. So like um, I'm trying not to get a real job. I if I have to work on guitars, I've fixed it. I've fixed one headstock, so I might consider doing that again. But I can put new pickups in it, whatever you need. We'll figure it out.
You will figure it out. And the best place to reach out to you is it through the Instagram, perhaps? If
That'll
somebody's
work.
in the Los Angeles area, Southern California area, to
Yeah, I'm not giving my phone number out on here, but if you want to hit me up on
where we'll put it in post. The phone number's right here. Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
No, again, at underscore Orvy underscore on Instagram. If you're in the Southern California area, we could maybe make something happen, right?
Yeah, and if any listeners want to try to book some shows for any of these other bands, Memo or Bad Sports, definitely hit me up. So,
Okay. Orville, once again, thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate it. And I'm gonna stop recording this and I'll talk to you in a minute, all right?
okay.